see the need of green insurance packages for their businesses. And as a result of that, most of them would have to now change their living standards, their capital will be lost, and pretty much that will be the end for some of them. And for some, their children will eventually have to go to school. And that is a problem that the Center for Social Justice has identified, and for the purpose of which this national policy dialogue is being held, to look at how best to get informal sector workers who literature has shown form the major part of the workforce in Ghana, how to get them protected in terms of access to credit and also insurance packages. And so it's important that you're here, and we're glad that you made time to be here. We're starting, and obviously we'll start with a word of prayer. And so I will call on Ms. Solace Amaniaje to come and lead us in a word of prayer. And pretty soon we will begin, and we're hoping that this will be impactful and be the beginning of a change-making session for the majority of informal sector workers who feed their families. Thank you.
Is to impact society and to impact the nation as a whole. We pray that everything that we do here will be in that line. In Jesus' mighty name, I will pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you very much. We give a round of applause as she indeed, we pray that the good Lord will take care of us and we'll find some good work out of this. And so we'll shortly, officially open the dialogue, and to do that for us, may I call on Professor Alex Meno Ansa. He is the Executive Director for the Center for Social Justice, to do this for us, officially open up this. With a round of applause, let's welcome Professor Alex Meno Ansa, Executive Director for the Center for Social Justice.
Thank you very much. And Honorable Minister's representative, very highly placed people gathered in this place. I just want to observe our protocols and to say a very warm welcome to you to this dialogue series. I have met friends and I have made friends. But particularly I want to say thank you to Star Ghana Foundation for making this dialogue a possibility, and also to the organizing team for putting everything together. We want to welcome you to this dialogue series, and it is an opportunity and a platform that we have created for us to be dispassionately discussing the opportunities that are there for the informal sector in Ghana to have access to financial services.
The stories are very well known about people going to look for loans, and with these loans, by the time they say that they are going to put together collaterals and other things to be able to access these loans, they realize that they've fallen short of the requirements. We have had discussions with farmers, we've had discussions with market women, we've had discussions with various people. And we've had dialogue series in the northern part of
the country and also in Kumasi for the middle part of the country. This one is bringing together everything that we've learned. But not just talking to people, not just discussing with them, but moving the discussions beyond just talk to actual steps that are going to impact on the lives of the informal sector workers. So all of you here, you are not here by accident. It's an intentionality that brought you here together. And we want this intentionality to translate into the foundations of policy and programs that are going to include the informal sector in our financial ecosystem. So all of us sitting here, wherever you are coming from, I want you to be asking yourself, how can I contribute today to the future of this financial inclusion for the informal sector? If you haven't thought about it yet, you have the next 5 minutes to think about it, because very soon I'll be going around and asking people, what are you going to do to make this a possibility? Many of you have been with us in the various dialogue series, and we have some representatives of the informal sector here. We have some who are in policy, we have some of you who are from the financial sector, and then we have some from the policy background, plus other funders here. We are bringing all of us together so that we will see where we can contribute from each of us our viewpoints. A lot of the discussions that went on before we came here were around the fact that sometimes the informal sector does not even know or are not aware of the availability of some of these services.
So whilst I welcome you here, I want to welcome you into a dialogue that is going to create the foundation for history. If we fail the informal sector now, we are failing ourselves. The informal sector makes a lot of contributions to the economy of the country. If we think about farmers, I was telling somebody that when I was working at the Kintampo Health Research Center, there were instances where farmers in Tuobodom
would go for loan in order to have a bumper harvest for their tomato. And when the harvest is plentiful, the prices drop, and these farmers commit suicide. Anybody who knows Tuobodom, Akumadan area, you can ask. Almost every time that there is a bumper harvest in tomato, some farmers die. They take their lives because there's no protection for them, or they are not aware of the financial protections that are available for the loans that they are taking for the farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to shape the future of our country, and especially for a critical group in the development of this nation, the informal sector. So on behalf of CSJ's council and the executives, I want to say a warm welcome to you. And it is not just a dialogue, but it's also going to be a workshop. And so in the workshop, you will work and you will shop. So you will do some work, and after that, we shop. And the shopping, anytime you're going for shopping, you need a currency, you need money. And so the currency that we have to shop with here is ideas. And so please, we will trade ideas in this forum. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation. God bless you all.
Thank you, Rob. You can do it better. So Prof talks about engagements with informal sector traders in Kumasi and Tamale, and to set the tone properly for us to understand the findings of these engagements, so that we do not do guesswork and have conversations based on data. Let's welcome with a round of applause Ms. Priska Ansa. She's the head of community improvement projects for the Center for Social Justice. You can use that.
morning to you all. So coming from far and near to join us this morning for this conversation, only echoes one thing, that we care about financial inclusivity for our informal sector workers. And most importantly, you are willing to do something about it. That is contribute your talents, your experience, your expertise to enhancing credit access for our informal sector workers and social protection. And when we say social protection, we mean two main things: pension schemes and business or agri insurance. So we didn't want to just jump into the discussion. It is important that we set the context so we all understand where we are coming from, what we are going to do here today, and where we are headed after whatever transpires today. And that is my mission here this morning. And so through this presentation, we'll be going over the following. That is the background. We'll just look at the background and the context, why we should be having this conversation at all, and the key findings when we interacted with beneficiaries in rural north, somewhere in the north total districts. We interacted with farmers, got first-hand information, and then urban masses. We also interacted with traders there to get first-hand information when it comes to accessing credit, what the barriers or the challenges are. And then we also look at the stakeholder insights. We didn't just end at interacting with the beneficiaries. We gathered stakeholders who explored the barriers that were raised. We explored some solutions to those barriers. And today we'll be continuing that discussion. And then what the real gaps really are coming to after these interactions. And then we'll do some action planning. All right, so for background and purpose, I want us all to, just for a couple of seconds, just pause and then think about what you had for breakfast this morning. Think about the components of that breakfast. Some of them had our breakfast here, some of us probably had it at home. The components of your breakfast, just think about it for a second. And imagine what the journey has been for those components to get onto your table as the breakfast that you had this morning. If you look at that carefully, you would see in that supply chain that there is a farmer or a trader in there, all right? And most often than not, these are women. Am I being biased saying this? If you look at the statistics, the percentage of women involved in these areas. So when we look at the data, we'll see that the women make up a significant proportion of those engaged in farming and trading. So it's likely that traders and farmers will mostly be women. So just the statistic above shows that the people involved in informal sector in Ghana are 85%. And Ghana's workforce, which operates like female workforce, which operates in informal sector are 54%. And then within the informal sector also, we have 45% engaged in trade and 35% in farming. And it's quite interesting that we have a lot of women in farming, and yet we have yet to see the best farmer as a female, right? And that's the problem. Because cane production beyond subsistence is a function of credit, it's a function of funds. So it is a reason, it's part of the reason why we are here. And this AVID project, AVID means Action for Voice and Inclusive Development. It seeks to enhance credit access and social insurance, that is insurance for businesses, insurance, pension insurance for informal sector workers, particularly traders and farmers. And like the MC echoed, that most of the times when catastrophes, fall traders, you will see that they get back to square one, because they have not insured their produce in any way. So this is very important because we realize that these services are fundamental to to sustaining livelihoods and to scaling productivity, and also provide buffers for unforeseen economic and personal shocks. But let me hasten to add that data has it that Ghana has done some commendable work when it comes to financial inclusion, sorry. So it would be quite unfair not to mention that at all. We have achieved some strides in that area. Yet, despite that progress, there are still significant barriers, which is worth gathering here today and our collective attention and effort towards eliminating. So, to get up to this point, where we are gathered here to draw a blueprint that we can all implement towards addressing the barriers when it comes to accessing credit and insurance, we did some real work, like I mentioned before, because we didn't want to ride on assumptions or the already existing data. So we kicked off the process by interacting with people, interacting with traders in Kumasi and in the north. And then we also interacted with some key stakeholders. And then today, this is where we are, where we will put all those insights together to draw a blueprint that we can all implement as a nation towards addressing these barriers. All right, so here are some statistics that are worth just glancing at. So in informal sector in Ghana, 92% of women are in there and 40% are involved in trade and 34 in agri. And then in the entire nation, informal sector constitutes about 85%. So just some data there that you can take a glance at. And now that brings us to why is this conversation important at all? Why do we need to, leave our very busy schedules and gather here this morning? The first is that there is a livelihood issue, right? So for farming to go beyond sustaining one's immediate family, we need to produce, our farmers need to produce above consumption, which is made possible by credit. And this is not different from trade. For one to be able to expand, it will always require funds. All right. So for their livelihood, sustaining themselves, credit is very essential, and so is insurance. And then it says that the poverty cycle in rural communities is predominantly caused by the subsistence nature of the farming activities. So without funds, one only engages in small-scale farming and trading also. And this doesn't go beyond just sustaining their immediate families. With no form of savings, no form of investment, no insurance for vulnerable moments. And we know these moments are inevitable. Illness will always arise, shocks, and then it's old age. What happens when they are old and can't farm anymore? You see the poverty cycle just going on from one generation to the other. And they are always kept in the state of not having enough. Again, it is essential for inclusive growth. We need every single citizen on board and empowered to contribute effectively to the national bucket. You see the states where we find ourselves of fighting with our neighbors, Burkina Faso, over tomatoes. It is not something that we should have found ourselves in as a nation in the first place. Because we have a vast cultural land. We have a human resource which is often characterized as enthusiastic and energetic. So if someone, let's say a farmer in my village, somewhere in Abubu, is empowered to produce beyond their immediate market, we can bring ourselves to a position where we are even the suppliers of some of these produce to our neighboring countries and not the other way around. So it is very essential for inclusive development if we empower our farmers, to go beyond subsistence. And then GDP is expected to increase by 34% in sub-Saharan Africa if women in trade and farming are empowered financially to produce at optimal points. And the women will be empowered if their business grew, they will be empowered with income, and they will have women fighting for their lives, and there will be less abuse. Right? And then last but not the least, okay, so women will also be lastly, we will also see improvement in households. Women financial stability always will translate into better nutrition for the home, into good education, into good healthcare for the children. And all of these also have ripple effects across multiple development outcomes. You can talk about the SDG 1, which is low poverty, SDG 3, which is good health and well-being, 4, quality health, quality education, and 5, gender equality. We also have decent work and economic growth in there, and reduced inequalities. If women are empowered to produce beyond their immediate needs. All right, so now what are the barriers? We look at the barriers that we identified when we interacted with these beneficiaries, when we interacted with the traders and with the farmers. So the first is the collateral, which is often in form of the title assets or guarantors. It still remains a significant barrier when it comes to accessing credit. And this challenge disproportionately affects women who are disadvantaged within our Ghanaian cultural context, where inheritance systems are highly patrilineal. So as a result, women in many rural communities do not have ownership over assets like land, and it makes it even more difficult for them to meet collateral requirements. And then the processes involved in acquiring loans are usually perceived as unfair. All right, there can be a debate around it, but that's how people in the rural community perceive it. You do not understand the loan process, and it is lengthy. I need to fill a long form, and especially it gets them intimidated. And then this is not news to any of us, that high interest rates, that defeats the purpose of accessing the credit. So the cost of the borrowing reduces the potential benefits of the loan. So they do not have much returns from their activities to offset these high costs of credit that comes to them. So when it came to the area of insurance, the predominant challenge we identified is low awareness, which is often more pronounced. It was more pronounced in rural communities. So beyond awareness, there's also the confidence gaps, and many individuals lack trust in the system and are hesitant to follow through with claim processes. And this is often influenced by previous experience. Maybe somebody has had an experience of contributing to an insurance claim and couldn't find them or couldn't even access their claims when they need arose. And then additionally, the seasonality of income, particularly for farmers and informal sector workers, makes it difficult to commit to insurance and pension schemes. And these mostly require fixed and regular contributions. I know SNPs would require you to contribute a monthly amount towards your pension scheme, and this is difficult for farmers especially. All right, so the issue of trust and financial literacy came across as a cross-cutting barrier to both credit and insurance access. So clients do not trust the banking institutions, they do not trust the insurance institutions, and it is also the other way around. Insurance institutions also express distrust to clients, and usually that's the cause of the long claim process, because they've also had experiences of fraudulent claims, so which makes them a bit critical when it comes to assessing the claims that have been filed, and trust became a two-way barrier. And we also have financial literacy gaps, not understanding what the financial products really are about, and even how to access them, like limited understanding of pension schemes, why I need it in the first place, and even where accessibility also is a significant barrier. All right, so from all of these interactions, so with the beneficiaries, what we learned clearly points to the fact that access to credit and protection remains unequal for Ghanaian informal sector workers. We would say, oh, we have done so much, there have been a lot of policies and all that, but when you go down to rural communities especially, access is still unequal. very necessary, why we should be having this conversation. And then the current systems are not tailored to irregular income flows, group-based guarantees, or low literacy clients. You know, how do we explain to someone who does not understand the terms? Very key. And there's a clear need for inclusive policy and reform, product innovation, and education. All right, so we did not end the baseline studies with interactions with just the beneficiaries, like I said earlier. We proceeded to interact with stakeholders in various regional dialogues, and here is what we gathered from those conversations. So from banks, rural banks, other financial institutions, here is what we gathered, right? So business formalization, they mentioned, is very key to credit access, and how banks are able to help with this is usually through referrals. But you see a huge gap right there, because business formalization for rural settlers is not that simple. There are no registrar general offices in every district. You know, so even traveling to find somewhere to register one's business is very problematic. We invited the registrar general's office here, but I'm not sure they were able to make it. So they also mentioned that group lending is identified as a preference. So beneficiaries are encouraged to belong to some form of associations, as that improves monitoring and reduces risk. And also keeping track of transactions. If you're able to keep track of your business transactions, it always strengthens your credit access case. And then financial institutions call for partnerships with CSOs to take products to community level. And there, in one of the stakeholder meetings, we did hear the CSOs also call out very loudly that financial institutions can't partner with us, let us take the products to the community level. So clearly, you see that there's a hunger for some form of collaboration, but the question really lies in who should be the center of that collaboration, who should go collaborate with who. That will also get into today. And then agency banking also came up as a way to extend outreach. So we also did learn that the constraints of the interest rate is predetermined. Banks are not able to do so much about it because it's the reference rate from Bank of Ghana which determines it. But there were, however, mentions of some concessionary rates in partnership with development partners that businesses can always access. But again, the issue was awareness. You know, how many people knew that there were packages like this that we could access. All right, so from insurance institutions also, we understood that understanding the concept of insurance, if you understand what the concept of insurance is, that's necessary for adopting it. And various outreaches that we have carried out and some strategies that we have adopted to enhance insurance for informal players. So we saw the option of micro insurance, which allows for flexible payment and intermittent withdrawals, unlike the SNP pension scheme. When you enroll in micro insurance, that allows you to make flexible payments, and you can also withdraw intermittently. And this did solve for the seasonal income, which characterizes informal employment. So they also did highlight the fact that agricultural insurance has been very challenging to implement. You know, that came out side when they do not find buyers for their produce or even at the right price point. What can insurance do in this state? But they also mentioned that it's very challenging because of the high risk involved. You know, hence premiums come up very high and it gets unaffordable for the farmers. So we need to really look into it and discuss how we can work around it. So the CSOs also, we identified that can play a very key role when it comes to enhancing credit access for informal sector workers by helping them to get into VSLA groups, trader associations, community networks, farmer groups, and also enhance literacy and education and facilitate in access also. All right, so in summary, having listened to farmers in rural Ghana, having listened to traders in urban Ghana, various industry workers, we summarize the main barriers to credit and insurance access into these 5 categories. One being structural gaps, all right, so limited presence of financial and insurance institutions and other state institutions that facilitate or that give out funds to these people, like Maslow. You know, their accessibility to the communities is very limited. And then two is information gaps, that is low awareness of the available services. And then we have the trust concerns, and then tailored products to seasonal incomes, and to seasonal incomes in the informal sector. And also the collateral requirements, which falls under the category of policy or regulatory gap. All right, so later today, we will move into some real work, like Prof said. We will all roll up our sleeves. We'll break into various working groups. We'll put out the groups before we get there. And then we'll be working towards developing practical solutions and actionable ideas. And then we'll be coming up with a blueprint that we, at the Center for Social Justice, will follow through. You know, and the belief is that after following through this, we
access to credit and insurance rates in Ghana over the next year. So we will have 2 groups. Would elaborate on the blueprints when we get there. But then the barriers, like how practically to address the identified gaps. And then there will be another group that will be looking at policy recommendations. So these are all printed out, but we'll hand over to the groups when we get there. All right, so I am complete, like they say it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Priska. Let's appreciate her and the team who did this work.
And these barriers are celebrated by Priska are taken care of. So our job today at the end of everything is to come up with ideas and practical steps as to how we can bridge this gap and also address issues of the barriers as have been identified by the research team. I must say that this is out of a project by a project named the Action for Voice, Influence and Inclusive Development, AB2 project, which is an initiative by the Center for Social Justice. And this is in partnership with Star Ghana Foundation. So at this point, I would like to call onto the stage Mr. Raymond Damso of Star Ghana Foundation to help us appreciate from their point of view how important issue of financial inclusion is. Let's give him a round of applause. His way to the podium.
Thank you very much. Representative of the Minister of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, the Executive Director of Center for Social Justice, Professor Alex Manu and Son, distinguished partners from the Bank of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance, financial institutions, colleagues, CSOs, and our hardworking brothers and sisters from the informal sector. A very good morning to all of us. Star Ghana is excited to be here today under a partnership with the Center for Social Justice, which is focused on working for the very ordinary people who, in our view, are the core. They keep the heart of the country breathing. And I'm talking to you about the women KJT a smallholder farmer in Tamale, whose harvest feeds us in the city. We've had a long road Center for Social Justice under the Army Partnership, essentially from the baseline study through the regional dialogues in Tamale and Kumasi and all the other interventions. The evidence is clear, and I think Principal has actually re-emphasized that we are dealing with a sector that constitutes over 80% of our workforce, yet they remain likely invincible to the financial institutions. Again, data from our work also reveals a very painful irony. What do we see? Of course, today we see mobile money penetration, we see digital banking. Unfortunately, our mothers in the markets and our farmers in the hinterland still struggle with a massive trust gap. President emphasizes. They see the former insurance and pension schemes as a complex puzzle designed for salary elites. Of course, they are also worried about the processing fees, and that makes it, in a way, excludes them, and it also becomes very difficult to access. In Tamale, we heard of stories of farmers who have the desire to speak, they have the desire to save, but they lack the rural-friendly infrastructure to do so safely. In Kumasi, also, our market women also sadly spoke about the collateral gap, that the very assets they use as survival are not recognized by the former banking institutions. In the Northeast, we have documented cases where loans are issued at interest rate as high as 28%. Yet even at these levels, access to credit remains extremely limited. And so in Star Ghana, we have worked with partners at the Center for Social Justice to address some of these concerns through the voice part of the development. We have funded platforms that allow informal workers to negotiate directly with the local government and financial institutions around services. We have also seen some successes. We have helped to put groups into cooperatives that enable them to increase their bargaining power. However, our interventions also have a limit. Especially when we are confronted with national policies or private sector that is still hesitant to the risk of the informal worker. We can build the capacity of these women groups, either we put them in cooperatives, either we offer them the financial literacy training, and all the other things we've talked about here. But if the banking regulations do not involve to accept alternative collateral, the capacity remains underutilized. And so this is why this national knowledge is very important, that we need to work as an ecosystem. If we look around ourselves, not too far, in Kenya, where we've seen some successes, the success of actually of their micro pensions was not just because of technology, not at all. It was about a deliberate partnership between the regulator and the telecommunications sector to make the M-Pesa a tool for long-term security. Same thing in India, where we can talk about the Southern Rural linkage model, which transforms millions of lives by treating women's groups as viable financial entities rather than high-risk individuals. In Ghana, we can do same, but we must break the current gap in coordination. So we need the Bank of Ghana to provide the regulatory sandboxes that allow for innovative micro-insurance products. We also need the Ministry, Trade, Agribusiness, and Industry to ensure that the value chains are strong enough to make our farmers bankable. Most importantly, we also need the financial institutions here in this room to, as it were, stop seeing the informal sectors as a charity. We need to see them as the largest on-tap market in the country. And so as we gather here to deliberate, I'd like to urge all of us to focus on the how, in addition to all the data that is presented to us. How do we simplify the language of insurance? How do we create risk-sharing mechanisms that protect the lender and the borrower? And so for Star Ghana, we'll continue to work with CGS and all the we want to ensure that the voices of the women in PGT markets, as far as those farmers in Tamale, their voices are not just heard, but also fundamental to the policies and strategies that we develop as a country. And so on this note, I'd like to comment Center for Social Justice and wish for us a very productive dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's continue to appreciate you. Center for Social Justice and Star Ghana Foundation is doing their bit contributing as far as what CFOs do. But what exactly are those with the power and authority are doing, and what are issues like from their point of view? At this particular point, let's take some key remarks from key institutions that are driving financial inclusion in Ghana. And first will be Bank of Ghana, to be presented by Isaac Impre. He's in the department, the payment system department of the Bank of Ghana. And then when he's done, we also take that of the Ministry of Finance, Patience Aku Boham. She's head of financial inclusion, innovation, and research unit. Let's, with a round of applause, welcome the representative from the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Isaac Impre, from the payment system department, to let us understand from their perspective how things are as far as financial inclusion is concerned.
Thank you. I believe you are a family here to solve one problem, and to alleviate the situations and the problems that the women are facing, especially for in Ghana. And today is Financial Women's Day. So I feel it's an appropriate day for us to deliberate on issues and how to solve the women's problem and women as a whole. Thank you very much. The Executive Director of Center for Social Justice. Representatives from Ministry of Trade and Industry and representatives from Ministry of Finance, distinguished colleagues, stakeholders. Good morning. I'm honored to speak at this National Council for Financial Inclusion and Social Protection. On the topic that is critical of it, advancing financial inclusion for the informal sector. Over the years, Ghana has made significant progress expanding access to financial services. As of 2024, approximately 81% of adults have access to formal financial services. This represents a notable increase from 68% in 2021 and the 58% from 2017. This progress has largely been driven by mobile money, agent banking, and broader digital financial services. However, while access has improved considerably, the key question we must now ask is, are individuals and businesses benefiting from those services? Maybe in the areas that when we meet as groups, we'll ask ourselves. To better understand this, it is important to reflect on how Ghana's financial inclusion landscape has evolved over time. Initially, the focus was on fiscal expansion. Banks, rural banks, microfinance institutions, and savings and loans companies were established to bring financial services closer to the people. While this approach was necessary at the time, it also came with challenges. Maintaining fiscal branches was costly, and in many cases, those branches could not reach remote and underserved communities. Over time, this model became difficult to sustain, and some institutions began to rationalize their branch networks. However, this challenge presented a significant opportunity. With the emergence of digitalization, particularly mobile money, agent banking, and fintech innovations, Ghana was able to overcome many of these limitations of fiscal infrastructure. digital financial system made it possible to reach individuals and communities that traditional banking models could not effectively serve. I'm sure the bankers are here, so they will agree with me on this point. As a result, financial inclusion expanded rapidly, but today the focus has shifted. We are no longer concerned with access alone. The priority now is to ensure that financial inclusion translates into meaningful impact, improving livelihoods, supporting businesses, and promoting economic resilience. The Bank of Ghana continues to play a central role in this transformation. Under the Payment Systems and Services Act 987, the bank is mandated to promote financial inclusion while ensuring the safety and soundness of the financial system. Our approach has been to create an enabling regulatory environment that supports innovation, strengthens trust, and ensures that financial services are accessible, reliable, and secure. Through initiatives such as the National Financial Inclusion and Development Strategy and the National Payment System Strategy, Ghana has made significant strides. We have seen strong growth in mobile money usage, increased participation of women and MSMEs in the financial system, improved interoperability across payment platforms, and the expansion of agent networks across the country. Importantly, data from the Ghana Demand Side Survey conducted by the Ministry of Finance in 2021 has shown that mobile money has been the single most transformative drive of financial inclusion in Ghana. It has significantly reduced financial exclusion and brought more people into the formal financial ecosystem. Yet access alone is not sufficient. I believe you all agree with me. The next phase of financial inclusion must focus on usage, quality, and impact. What we must ensure that financial services are not only available but are actively used in ways that improve economic outcomes. One of the most important developments in this regard is the use of digital innovation to expand access to credit. Traditional access to credit require collateral or formal financial records, such as bank statements. This created barriers for many individuals and businesses in the informal sector. Today, however, financial institutions are increasingly leveraging alternative data, including mobile money transactions and digital payment histories to assess credit worthiness. This means that individuals no longer need to rely solely on traditional documentation. Their digital footprints can now provide valuable insights into their financial behavior and capacity, enabling them to assess credit more easily. I believe those of us here who know of the share can talk about that one, how they are helping even the KIA and others to access of facilities from the add-on and then pay their needs because of their credit worthiness and the financial data that the share will receive from them. So it's another system that is helping in that line of action. This is a significant step, particularly for small business and informal sector operators. In addition, digital platforms are helping business grow. Traders and small enterprises can now accept digital payments, expand their reach through online channels, and build financial records through their transactions. These records are critical. They provide visibility to business activity and can support access to financing. However, one key challenge remains that many individuals and businesses are not fully aware of this opportunity, and in some cases do not maintain proper records. This highlights the importance of financial literacy and awareness as a key pillar of financial inclusion. Going forward, the National Payment System Strategy, which is from 2025 to 2059, by the Bank of Ghana, outlines several priority areas to deepen financial inclusion and enhance impact. This includes expanding digital financial infrastructure, promoting financial literacy, strengthening consumer protection, supporting MSMEs and women-led businesses, and leveraging data and open finance frameworks to improve access to credit. These initiatives are aligned with our broader objective of ensuring that financial inclusion delivers real economic value. In conclusion, Ghana has made strong progress in expanding access to financial services. The next phase is to ensure that this access translates into tangible benefits, improving livelihoods, supporting businesses, and empowering individuals, particularly within the informal sector. Achieving this will require continued collaboration among regulators, financial institutions, development partners, and all stakeholders within this ecosystem. So today, I think we are all here because of that. And I believe at the close of the day, we will come out with something realistic to enhance the activities of the underserved. Together, we can build a financial system that is not only inclusive, but also impactful and transformative. Thank you.
I guess most of us will be happy to see that
for social justice. I think I got it right. Your representatives from Ministry of Trade and Industry and our colleagues here. Good morning to all. Dialogue on financial inclusion and social protection for informal sectors. I bring you warm greetings from the Honorable Minister of Finance and the leadership of the Ministry of Finance. Just as been done by BOG, I want to commend the Center for Social Justice for convening this timely national dialogue. It's really, really important because it gives us a learning platform for collective reflection and policy alignment and strategic action towards deepening inclusive finance and strengthening social protection for Ghana's informal sector. My colleague from BOG has already talked about the progress made. It's true, substantial progress has indeed been made within for access to financial services. He mentioned adoption of digital financial services like mobile money, which has fundamentally changed or reshaped financial access. He also mentioned the demand side survey, which is true, but I want to add that the World Bank Global Index also puts Ghana's financial rate at 81%, reflecting differences in measurement approaches, while confirming significant need in the country. So basically, that is what I want to say. I think he also mentioned that we need to move beyond access, which is true. So the gains coexist with persistent structural vulnerabilities according to the Ghana Statistical Service for Labor Statistics for 2025. The informal sector employs approximately 80% of the workforce and account for over 90% of business. It's a fact. Yet contributes disproportionately smaller share of GDP. This imbalance highlights critical challenges So, as I said, while access to financial services has expanded, it has not really translated into higher productivity, improved resilience, or adequate social protection for informal workers and enterprises. This reality underscores the need for a strategic shift from access-driven agenda to one that is explicitly focused on impact. Financial inclusion must be assessed not only by penetration rates, but outcomes such as income stability, consumption, smoothing enterprise growth, reduce vulnerability to shocks. For a large segment of the informal economy, these outcomes remain elusive. To achieve meaningful impact, financial services delivery must better align with the operating realities of informal sector participants. Product design, which has already been talked about, pricing, and distribution models, which should reflect irregular income patterns, limited collateral, and high exposure to risk. At the policy level, this calls for a stronger collaboration among regulators, financial services providers, and data-producing institutions to ensure that innovation is both inclusive and fit for purpose. Let me pause here. Just yesterday, the ministry also participated in a similar program that was organized by Filma and Temple's Investment. And almost your presentation was what was similarly shared there. And I figured out, sitting from afar, I realized that we have fragmented financial inclusion protection, financial inclusion, yes, you have most of them fragmented. And so what the ministry is seeking, one of the things we are seeking to do is to actually consolidate all of these programs. So what we want to do, actually we have built a financial inclusion web portal. We are going to be reporting on all of these programs. We also want to set up a financial sector data framework, because we realize that data is fragmented, and from the policy level, it does not really, we need it for evidence-based policies. So basically that is what I want to talk about. So integrating social protection with financial inclusion, government remains committed to advancing social protection and financial inclusion as core instruments for reducing vulnerability, strengthening livelihoods, and promoting inclusive growth. By leveraging digital financial infrastructure, adaptive regulation, and targeted social interventions, government seeks to ensure that access to financial services translates into improved resilience, economic security, especially for the informal sector. We have realized that one way, which has also been talked about, is the improved digital infrastructure, which presents a powerful opportunity to improve the targeting, delivery, and accountability of social interventions. Another one is financial capability or financial literacy programs and consumer protection, which remain essential enablers for this transition. Although adoption of basic digital financial services is high, limited financial literacy continues to constrain the effective uptake of more advanced products. This underscores the importance of sustained investment in financial education, transparency, robust safeguards that protect consumers and strengthen confidence in regulated financial markets. BOG and Ministry of Finance has done a lot regarding financial literacy. I don't know whether the team was part of the Ministry of Finance team that really implemented a nationwide financial literacy programs across. We deployed both the traditional and non-traditional methods for the sake of those in the rural communities. And so we have been doing that. BOG and other financial institutions have been doing that. But we also agree that more needs to be done in that area. Another thing I want to say is that currently the Ministry of Finance is developing a successor national financial inclusion development strategy. The earlier one was a 5-year strategy which expired, in 2023, even though it expired. There were some activities like evaluation, and we are going to have robust stakeholder engagement with all of you, and we'll bring people like you to the table. Ultimately, progress in this area depends on collective action. Regulators, financial institutions, fintechs, development partners, and civil society all have critical roles to play in ensuring that financial inclusion efforts are coherent, scalable, and responsive to the needs of the informal majority. In closing, the shift from access to impact is not merely a conceptual adjustment, it is a policy imperative. I'll finish soon. By strengthening the link between financial inclusion and social protection, Ghana can build a more resilient informal economy, reduce structural vulnerabilities, and advance inclusive and sustainable growth. I once again express my appreciation to the organizers and all stakeholders for their continued partnership and commitment. I thank you for your attention, and we look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patience Akuboham, Head of Financial Inclusion, Innovation and Research Unit at the Ministry of Finance. Be reminded that later in the day we are going to break into groups and have discussions as to how exactly we can improve upon financial inclusion. At least from what we've heard so far from Priska, delivering the key findings to remarks the remarks by the institutions in charge of financial inclusion in Ghana. One thing is clear that, of course, access has expanded, but it has not necessarily translated into impact, and that is what we are going to think of today. Again, we get to know that the conversations we are having here are not abstract in nature, because policymakers are doing something about it and are thinking of the future. Ms. Patience Akuboham tells us that there's going to be the development of a financial inclusion strategy, which means that your contributions today will be quite timely to help us appreciate or to help policymakers get your views. And this will be one of their major stakeholder dialogue, because almost all the important stakeholders are at this particular forum. At this point, we're going to take the keynote address, originally designed to be given by the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, but she's not available. She has, however, sent a representative from the person of Mr. Yasaki, who is the Director of General Administration at the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. At this point, let's call on Mr. Yasaki. He's going to deliver an address on strengthening value chain to improve bankability and access to finance for informal sector players, with a focus on peasant farmers and traders.
Thank you. The Executive Director of the Center for Social Justice and Wealth, representatives of the Ministry of Finance, distinguished representative from the Bank of Ghana, the National Insurance Commission, and our financial institutions, leaders of market associations and women farmer cooperatives, civil society organizations, development partners, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's a pleasure for me to join you today for this important program. Before I proceed any further, please permit me to convey to you one greeting from the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Honorable Elizabeth Ofosori, who unfortunately is unable to participate in this event due to another equally important national assignment. In this regard, she has asked me to represent her at this important dialogue on a matter that affects the daily working lives of millions of Ghanaians, and to express her sincere regrets for her inability to attend. Personally, I consider it a privilege to stand in her stead at a gathering such as this, not only because of the importance of this event, but also because of the issues that bring us together today, that brings us together to speak directly to the work we do, the lives we affect, and the future we are trying to build. Ladies and gentlemen, for millions of Ghanaians, the informal sector is not a side story in our economy. It is how families survive, how children are kept in school, and how businesses continue from one day to the next. Indeed, the trader in the market, the woman processing food for sale, the farmer waiting on a good season, and the artisan struggling to keep a small enterprise alive all form part of the everyday effort that keeps this country moving. That is why today's dialogue matters. That is why today's dialogue matters, and the scale of the issue becomes even clearer when we look at the figures. Presently, about 89% of our workforce operates in the informal sector. The resultant effect is that when informal workers struggle to access credit, insurance, or social protection, we are not speaking about a small part of the country. We are speaking about the working lives of the majority of our people. The picture becomes even clearer when we consider the place of women in enterprise. Ghana was ranked third globally in the 2021 MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurs, with 37.2% women business ownership. It is also estimated that women own about 44% of MSMEs in Ghana. Yet, across Africa, women still face an estimated $42 million United States dollar financing gap. What this means is that the willingness to work is precisely this gap that makes today's engagement so important. I therefore, on behalf of the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, commend the Center for Social Justice, Start Ghana Foundation, and their partners for bringing this issue forward in a practical way. By engaging directly with women, traders, and farmers in Kumasi and Tamale, they have helped to ensure that this conversation is shaped by real-life experiences, not assumption. What has come through clearly from these engagements is that the program is not only about whether support systems exist. It is also about whether people know about them, whether they trust the institutions behind them, and whether they can access them without unnecessary difficulty. That is where the real test lies. It is in response to these realities that the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry remains committed to supporting MSMEs, especially women-led and informal businesses. Through the Ghana Enterprise Agency of the Ministry and related interventions, the Ministry will continue to support business development services, skills training, market access, digital adaptation, and pathways to formalizations. As I bring my remarks to an end, it is my hope and expectation that this dialogue will lead to practical recommendations and stronger coordination among our institutions. In the end, the value of our effort will be seen in whether the trader, the farmer, and the small business owner can feel a real difference in their daily working lives. On that note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Minister, I thank the organizers for their kind invitation to us, and I wish you all fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yaosaki. He represented the Minister of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, the Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajari. And as he rightly indicated, your input in today's dialogue will be much appreciated. We've listened to a lot of speeches, but the ultimate point is to hear from you and to gain your views. But even before we go into the breakout sessions, we've listened to speeches from the CSOs, from policy makers. From your own experiences, if you're not an informal trader, perhaps you have sold your car before, or you, in front of your house, you have a shop that you sell something. So one way or the other, all of us fall within the informal sector bracket, and we would have our views. And so let me at this point call on the Executive Director for the Center for Social Justice, Professor Alex Mino Ansa, to lead a session where we'll basically inquire from us, from our own perspective, what we think financial inclusion within the informal sector is in Ghana, and what points we need to make going into the breakout session. With a round of applause, let's welcome Professor Alex Mino Ansa.
You realize that I have a way of clapping for myself. Because if you're clapping for me, then I'm clapping too. Then I should direct it to myself. Shall we rise and do a bit of stretching, because we've been sitting for quite... So just before we go into the breakout sessions, I want us to do a bit of stretching. So shall we try this? So you would stand straight at ease, and then try to look back through your left. Turn through your left, and look back and hold it, and I'll tell you when you should come back. So I'll be counting 5. So let's do it. Let's all come to the middle. Okay, now let's do it now. Let's move. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come back slowly. Don't turn back sharply. You may hurt yourself. Then we turn through the right. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come back slowly. Nice. I like the way you come back slowly. The other one we'll do is just to, as you do this, you try to go on the tip of your toes, and then you hold it, and then you come down. Maybe you will fly today. So let's try that. Let's go up, up. Hold it, come down slowly. Let's go again. Up. Hold it, come down slowly. And then the third one, up. This time you should fly. Up. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and come down slowly. Thank you all very much. You can have this. So we're going to pass the microphones around, one on the right and one on the left. And I want us to have a few reflections on what we have heard so far. What does it mean to us? Are there some experiences we want to share, even before we go deep into the discussions? So we had a presentation about the work we did, the engagements we had with the CS, the various organizations. I would definitely want to also so before we do that, we have to know who is here, right? At least everybody knows that CSJ is here. And now we know Ministry of Finance is here, and we know that the Bank of Ghana is here, we know that the Ministry of Trade is here. But who else is here? There used to be something we call who is who. So now we are going to do the who is who. And so the various organizations that are here, groupings that are here, We want a representative to raise the hand and just tell us that you are who you are. And then we can move on from here before we start talking. Because we want to know who is talking and where it's coming from. So, who will start? Okay? Not a long introduction, just tell us who you are or your group that you came with.
Peasant from the Ghana Association of Banks. Hi, I'm Daniel Mensah from the Ghana Association of Banks.
Ghana Association of Banks. Thank you.
I am Abia Kumiya. I'm here with my colleague.
Brilliant.
I'm also from Eastern region.
Yeah. Okay, so they are farmers from the Eastern region. They were part of the Kumasi engagement.
My name is Dr. Thelma I'm from ARV Apex Bank.
Apex Bank, thank you.
My name is Alexander from Starlight Assurance.
So Starlight is here.
Good morning. Kennedy Gedo Adams. I'm in the Ministry of Food and Agri. I'm here with my colleague, Baba.
So Mofa is here.
My name is Enoch Bio, General Secretary, Union Workers Association. I'm here with Madam San for TUC.
TUC is here.
My name is Albert Kwanzaa of the Civil Society Coalition for the African Continental Free Trade. I'm on the team this year.
So we are knowing. Okay. Yeah.
My name is Kitty Chum. I work with her bank. I'm in the Women's Bank unit, and I'm here with my colleague.
So the Women's Bank unit of Car Bank.
John Gershon Compson. I work with Rural Urban Solutions. You are based in Coast.
Thank you very much. Anybody on the table we haven't called yet? Those of you.
Rookie development. I'm here. Thank you.
ADV.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm LB. I'm here with my colleague.
Access Bank. Great.
Look, I'm here with my manager.
Okay. Anybody else? I have my senior here. Senior in medical school, senior in profession, everything. I'll teach you it. I don't think we want.
My name is Henry Nagai. I work in the medical sector, in the development field, but currently I'm an executive advisor at ASDAC that looks at scientific matters and justice. Thank you.
So it's up to have him here. Anybody, any group haven't talked to yet, or we haven't introduced yet?
Good morning. My name is Rita Apau. I'm with the National Insurance Commission.
NIC. Thank you.
My name is Thelma Hayford, and I'm here with my colleague from Oxford.
Oxfam. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Is there...
I'm Florentina Chemical, Finance Pillars, Center for Social Justice.
Okay. So she's really part of us. Okay. Any...
My name is Alex from First National.
First National. Wonderful. Okay. I think we have gone round now. So we were saying that we want to take comments on what we've heard so far. When we were young, when your television is not working, it's the top. So I'm trying to see whether the black and white microphone will work now. So any comments, questions about what we've heard so far? Remember, it's a dialogue series. Remember, it's a workshop, and we have to shop with our knowledge and experience. So any comments? Yes. Good.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Enoch from UNUA. Let me thank the presenters, those who made the presentations, work done. Mine is a contribution and experience. You know, I've been in the informal sector for a long time. I do a trade, and now I'm the General Secretary for the union that to advocate for policies from government to make the informal sector attractive. And we had a lot of issues about the barriers and gaps when you come to financial inclusion. For example, in Ghana here we have for the informal sector workers. But the gaps is not out there for people to know how they can access that tier trade pension scheme. We have it, and we call it a UNUA pension scheme, UNUA informal pension scheme, managed by the PPT. The shortfall of it is education about it. Two, there's no motivation from any government institutions that can encourage the informal workers to subscribe to it or to register for, because you know our work is seasonal. Sometimes you say I'll pay next days, then the next day you lost your job, you can sit for home around maybe for 2-3 weeks, you don't have any income. So, there are a lot of challenges. So we are calling for, because I may be in the informal pension scheme, I also be in the NHIA and other schemes. So I'll go here and pay, I'll come here and pay. So we are calling for a short code, so that that short code can take care of all the schemes that a worker is. And when I pay, or I use a code, short code, or the Momo number, then I pay for all. If I'm in the trade contributors, then I pay for all the trade, then I'll be free. No office visit.
Thank you.
So that the informal workers will have a future when we retire.
Brilliant. So I think in summary, he's asking for digital solutions and some form of integration of payment schemes, so that there will be ease of access. You don't have to go piecemeal and solving some of these problems. So it's a call to all of us. And one of the things that I love is the infusion of technology and digital innovations into many of the things that we are doing. And it's been one of the things that has driven financial inclusion from what the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance have told us. So we are in the right direction. It's calling for integration. Any more comments, questions?
Thank you. I'm the Deputy CEO, Maslog. I share with you when you brought up the issue of the Chibodom. You may be a brother because I'm also coming from Kintampo. And fortunately enough, I have personally worked with the Chiobodom traders because I used to work with Opportunity International. And it becomes so pathetic when you see these traders crying all out simply because they are being charged with high interest rate. Their produce are perishable. They get them. As I passed yesterday, I saw crates of tomatoes. They were crying for buyers. I don't know why. People don't like our own tomatoes, that they prefer the Burkina tomato. As you also engage with the baseline assessment, I would want to know the policy recommendation to the government, especially we have the rep of the Ministry of Agriculture and my brother representing the Trade Ministry. So I just want to know what you came out with a policy recommendation. Then on the part of the insurance, I also heard a sister representing the insurance agency. I want to know why farmers, they are not being covered with their produce, but they only have the life policy. Because I have been with the northern parts of the country, and what I personally witnessed was mostly their ewes are being affected, and out of that they are unable to pay their loans. So what I saw is they pay extra. The bank will insure them on their lifetime, either the personal beneficiary or your spouse or children. But if you want the insurance to cover your produce, then it means you have to incur additional cost before, because they said it is riskier insuring the farmland of these peasant farmers. I want to know what can be done in order to, lessen the burden of these peasant farmers, because when you go to the northern part of the country, it is not easy for them at all. Even to get access to land and to produce an acreage of your farm produce becomes so difficult. And for them, natural disaster hits them annually. What can be done in order to cushion these peasant farmers? Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian, and I really appreciate that. One of the good things here is that if you have some of these platforms and you found out, I didn't know she was from Kintampo, she would have said, oh, you just lied, this doesn't happen. I would have been in trouble. So that's the questions to ask. The first one is to CSJ, Friska. What policy recommendations have you come up with from your findings? And the second one is insurance for farm produce. I'll ask some of the insurance agencies. They said that you only give them life insurance, and assurance is when they die, but you don't insure their produce. So maybe that's why some of them commit suicide, so that the assurance come. So any of the banks or insurance companies respond to that one?
Thank you very much. I think in Priska's presentation, she did allude to some of the major gaps and barriers, which were quite accurate, because when I sat with my colleague here, the first thing we talked about was a trust issue. It is something that is very out there. When it comes to agri-produce, truthfully, it's a risky area that most insurance companies don't want to really consider, because of how the environment factors fluctuate a lot. However, when it comes to us as a regulator, we have put in some measures. When we recently passed our law in 2021, there's an aspect that we have created what we call the Agricultural Insurance Fund. So what this fund seeks to do is to, amongst others, to provide premium subsidies for farmers. So there's a team that's currently working very hard. We've developed a framework, working with other stakeholders, and we are built to engage the various stakeholders who would have access to these funds. There's capacity building, there's financial literacy, all involved. So once all these things have been put together, put in place, and implementation is started, we'll see the impact. But mainly, we want to subsidize premiums for these informal sectors. So it's not just about covering their lives, but it's also covering livelihoods, produce, the marketplaces, the fires that are occurring, they can easily insure, because if you don't have that micro insurance aspect to it, they may not be able to afford the premiums that are being charged by the insurance company. Okay?
Thank you, NIC, for yes.
It's a question. It's not the house.
Do come with it. There are still people having to answer questions, but we need a particular. Let me give you this one.
So, thank you very much. I think as to two things. I think one of the best things that has happened to this country over the last 10 years is how the Bank of Ghana, have transformed the financial sector. We are not behind at all when you look at what is within the African continent.
Yes.
When you do bad things, we say it. So here you've done so well. So we have to say that. I'm just wondering why. Different products, different financial field. So what do you think has been the reason for the lack of the impact that you use? Forward. Yesterday we all heard about the free primary healthcare launch. It's one of the major social justice interventions for the country. And for us who work sometimes in the basic informal sector, we need to take advantage of it. You don't need to pay any insurance. You are paying already the NHI as levy through the things you buy. So at the basic level, that service is going to be free for you, the user, although what you have been paying for in short voice there. It's a major social justice intervention, but I leave just.
Thank you very much. Please, if you want to take our microphones, if you hold it close to the top, then it doesn't create problems. I think it hates when you hold it close to the bottom. So let's take note of that. I think there were some questions that needed answering. We wanted the what do you think we can do about why people prefer to buy tomatoes from Burkina Faso? And what practically is the ministry doing about it? Because we can see the challenges that are coming, including these terrorist nonsense. And so, excuse me, but we need to do something about it. So what is being done about it? Ministry of Agri? Trade?
Okay, so I'll talk about just one issue, or maybe I'll add another one. As you're already aware, the ministry used to be trade and industry, But now the mandate of the ministry was expanded to include agribusiness, and it was not for nothing that that was done. And with that expanded mandate, what we are looking for is the business side of the agriculture. So where production ends, which is within the remit of the Ministry of Agriculture,